It's a fallacy of equivocation on the word transparent. So this video is about converters, and the reason I wanted to make this video is because I recently saw some YouTube video with a guy talking about how all converters were the same and they're all transparent, and you'll have to excuse me because I made some notes. I thought about this a lot. I made some notes, and so I'm going to be referring to these, but the video that the guy made, he made quite a few, and I enjoyed watching them a lot. And what I was mostly taken with is how much controversy it really generated. Like in the comments, like, I mean, this guy clearly knows what he's doing. He's, you know, professional and is competent and good at what he does. I'm sure he knows what he's doing anyway. And the comments were like, you must have a tin ear and you're an idiot and all this kind of stuff, which is really uncalled for. Because he's just he went to a lot of trouble of, like, he did tests with all this loopback stuff going on, and I found the videos fascinating, and because it's something that I've thought about a lot, and I'm really into the idea of things that are like, is this really something that's a lot better, or is it just marketed in a way that it costs a lot more? Because there's a lot of things like that. A lot. Cars, wine, definitely in the realm of like video and audio especially. Like camera gear and all kinds of things like this. There's a lot of things like this. And so I'm just gonna say right from the start that, just so it's understood, that in general, my feeling is that I agree with him from a certain point of view about they're all pretty transparent and doing basically the same thing. I may not go as far as what he said, and everything else that I'm going to say from here on out for quite a while is going to seem to contradict what I just said, that I agree with him. And I think the best way that I can describe it or convey to you how I see it is to just tell you my own story with converters. So, I mean, if you really want to go way back, it goes back to like the 90s when I was in school for music technology at the University of Alabama at Birmingham, but I didn't know anything about anything back then, so I couldn't really tell you what I thought about converters for sure. So fast forward to 2004-ish, and hold that. And in 2004, I got this gig along with my friend Carl Kaminsky, who's on my newest record, by the way, that's out now, called Atlantic, plays bass. He's a great bass player. We got this gig to where I was living in New York City at the time. We got this gig to where we were doing these 2 books with Cherry Lane Publishing, which is like a division of Hal Leonard. And the books were Learn to Play Drums, with Metallica, Volume 2, and Learn to Play Bass with Metallica, Volume 2. So we didn't write the books, but we were doing the CD here, the play along, or the examples, the musical examples. We were playing the examples. So For the drum book, I played the drum parts for all of these different things here, and then it had bass accompaniment, and my friend Carl played bass. And then so for the bass book, Carl's playing was featured on that, and then I played the drums for the accompaniment for this. And so basically, at that point, I had to have something to record drums, something of my own to record drums. And so I shopped around for some different things. My friend Carl had the MOTU Traveler, and that's what he was going to use. And so with the drums, you know, it's kind of tricky because the way that I like to record drums, I like to have at least 6 channels. I don't really need more than that, but I need 6 channels to do what I want. And that is for like kick drum, snare drum, 2 toms, and overhead, and I can make it work with that. You can have more, but I need at least that many. I don't like to do it with less than that. So I was shopping around and I came upon the MOTU 8 pre FIREWIRE. So it was, you know, it had 8 microphone preamps and main outs for your speakers and interface, and it was a good price. And all the MacBook Pros at that point had FIREWIRE, so that was where everything was at. And so I bought that, and I went, I mean, like, you know, it was a no-brainer. I went down to Manny's Music in Times Square, handed him my credit card and bought it and took it home and started recording drums for these books. And I didn't think too much about any of it besides that it worked. Sounded good to me. And I took that MOTU 8 pre all over New York City recording things. I took it to Hank's Saloon recording my friend Matt Walsh's band for him, you know, in a backpack with a MacBook Pro and a couple of mics. And I mean, I did a lot with it. And this would have been maybe 2004, 2003, 2004, I guess. And that was pretty much my rig from 2004 up through about 2014, maybe 15. So 10, 11 years, that was pretty much all I listened to. I knew the sound of it very well. These Genelec 8040A monitors, that MOTU 8 pre, that was it. So a lot of music went through it. I heard it a lot. So the FIREWIRE around this time started to be a problem because everybody was getting rid of the FIREWIRE. So that's all it had. So I had to start looking for something else. And I couldn't really make up my mind. I had my mind set on this Allen and Heath GSR 24M console that was like a 24 channel console that had a converter built into it, had an interface built into it. And so I knew that was going to take me a while to work up to that. So I bought a MOTU ULTRALITE Mark III in the meantime. And it was cool because it had FIREWIRE and it had USB. So it would kind of do both. So honestly, I don't remember much of any kind of difference in the sound between going from the MOTU 8 pre from 2004 to the MOTU ULTRALITE Mark III. Maybe they have the same DAC. I don't know. I didn't even really think about it. I don't recall any kind of difference in the sound of that. And so I used that and it was great. It did everything I needed except for having a lot of channels. And so then I got the Allen and Heath GSR 24M console, and you know, so far as the sound of the conversion, couldn't really tell you. It didn't stand out to me as much of anything really all that different. It was very different, but the sound of the converters was not what I felt was bringing anything different to it. At least not anything substantial in any way. And that thing cost like $12,000. Of course, there's a lot more than just it wasn't a $12,000 converter, but the other thing about that is that in my time in New York, I was in a lot of studios, and these studios had very high-end converters. I mean, everything from like MyTech to the Laverys to the Burls to, I mean, Prism Sounds, all good stuff. And you know, I would record things, I remember, and listen to it there in the control room. And then this was a time when people would like burn CDs and you could take it home. And then I would take it home and then I would play that through my setup. And, you know, basically it wasn't that different. Like, I mean, the room was so different, the speakers were so different that whatever the converter was doing, it was so negligible that I never even really thought much about that. And so fast forward, I get another console that is the Yamaha PM2000, because this console had much better preamps. It was transformer balanced. It was all the things that the GSR wasn't. Class A, discrete, really good topology on that console. But it obviously doesn't it needs converters. So I just kind of went with what I had, which was the MOTU ULTRALITE, because it had a lot in there, and I kind of made that work just with the line outs, using that and the direct outs on the console, and it worked just fine. So that's more of listening to the MOTU sound. And so then I sold those consoles, and then I was really just down to the MOTU. And then at this point I had two MOTU ULTRALITE Mark IIIs. And there was not one time that from all of this different stuff of going to these studios that had like the MyTechs and everything, and then coming back to my little MOTU rig, was I like, oh, this MOTU is so crappy, I wish I had these better converters. Never felt, didn't even really think about it. And so, fast forward again, and then I decided I needed more channels to be able to record drums again, because now, like, I had just a really inexpensive mixer here on this Allen & Heath that I was using for the mic pre's, which worked just fine. They're very clear and transparent, and I can bring anything else to it with plugins and EQ. And I just wanted to be able to record drums easily, and I felt like that's 24 channels. It'd be nice to have all 24 channels available at all times. So I started looking around, and what I came upon was the MOTU IO, which was 24 channels in on one unit and 24 channels out on the other, and that all connected via D-sub. And I was going to put the D-sub onto the patch bay to be able to patch in and out of it however I so chose. And so I bought that. And interestingly enough, when I got that converter, there was definitely a difference in the sound. Like, there is no doubt in my mind it sounded different than the MOTU ULTRALITE. I mean, it just did. Like, it was, if I was gonna have to describe it, it was cleaner. It was icy, kind of. It was very clinical in a way compared to like the ULTRALITE. And it was different enough that when I would listen to it, I wasn't sure if I really liked it, because it was so clinical like this. It was kind of cold sounding. But at the same time, it was it did seem more clear, like there was something, some kind of a veil that had slightly been lifted off of it, but I wasn't sure I liked that coming off really, because then felt like I needed to do more stuff to get it to back the other way. But it was such a, I mean, we're talking about a really minute kind of difference here. It's not that big a deal. I would say probably in the long run, if somebody said you had to pick between the sound of the old MOTU, the ultralight, and what to me sounded like all the other MOTU stuff that I had heard and had before, or that one, the 24IO sound, I guess I'd probably choose the sound of the 24IO. And I don't know, maybe it has like a high-end DAC in it. I think it might. But if I didn't have that, I was perfectly happy with the sound of the other one, and to such an extent that, just to finish out that story, so that particular MOTU was the AVB or ABV, whatever it is, and it had all kinds of problems with the software, with the network software that would allow you to choose your routing, and I would assign that out onto the console there, and like all of a sudden one channel that had been there, I would power cycle, and now it's on another channel of the console coming up. And this happened consistently, like enough to where I was like, well, this is not going to work. Like, I don't care what it sounds like, I don't care what it's doing. Like, if the software is that flaky, and now, you know, my channel 24 is now coming up on channel 22, and then I power cycle off, and then it's back, and then it's back here and there, and I was like, this is ridiculous. This is not going to work. I don't care anything else about the features. This is a deal killer right away. So I returned those units, and I was kind of bummed about it, because it did sort of check all the boxes, and the general sound of it was really good. But that was just not acceptable. And so that kind of brings me to this point of like, well, but I clearly heard a sound. I clearly heard a difference in those converters. The one that I had listened to for over a decade, and then get this new one in the same speakers and the same setup and everything else, and it was like, because now, like, the room's not changing, the speakers aren't changing, all the stuff's not changing, it's just changing out the converter. Definitely a difference. But not even enough for me to like want to keep that, because of what I do think is a better sound that the converters were bringing. And so these videos that this guy did, he did this loop back kind of thing where he would record it in and back into itself, and the sound wouldn't change from each looped recording through itself. And his conclusion from that was that, well, that means it's precisely what they claim. It's transparent. It's not imparting anything to the sound. It's transparent. And so therefore, they're all the same. It doesn't really matter. And here's where I have to say, like, well, they're not really, I can't go with that, because I've heard it myself that they definitely sound, there's definitely a difference in the sound. And I feel like, and here's where I'm getting the point, I think, maybe. So I agree and I disagree with him on that. Like, I disagree from the standpoint of I can definitely hear a difference in converters, some converters. I agree from his general sentiment of like what's really happening with a whole lot of this equipment is that there's a bit of snake oil salesmanship going on, and I definitely think that is true, especially when it gets really, really expensive. Like, there's stuff happening there with the marketing and the words that people attach to these products that's just disingenuous. And I believe a lot of the people selling it know that. Maybe a lot don't, but some people in that chain there know it. So his general point that I think he's trying to convey, if I were going to take something from his videos, is that all this stuff about like these converters is not really all that important. It's so negligible, like so many other things matter. If you're just saying that it is transparent and therefore they're all the same, I have to disagree, because you could say it's a fallacy of equivocation. It's a fallacy of equivocation on the word transparent, because transparent doesn't mean invisible. Like the windshield in your car is transparent. You know, like it's not opaque. That would be really bad. It's not even translucent. That would be pretty bad too. You would have to say it's transparent. And, you know, not even talking about like tinted windshields or anything like that, but just a clear windshield. And you can clearly tell this when you get in one car and then you get in another car. It doesn't look exactly the same out the windshield when you wash it, but we would all say, for all intents and purposes, that those windshields are transparent. They're not translucent, they're not opaque, they're transparent, but they're also not invisible. Like, they do bring something to your vision. And I feel like this is kind of where the problem with the converters comes in. None of them are invisible in a way, but almost all of them, for all intents and purposes, all the good ones, are transparent. And they're transparent in the way that a windshield is transparent, but you can see that it's there clearly, and there are differences. That's how I feel about converters. And I would just clarify one last thing before I wrap all this up, is that when I say there's snake oil salesmanship going on here and that a lot of this is going on, I don't really mean that about pretty much any of like the music-based audio interfaces for musicians and recording artists. Like the RME, I think they're a fantastic company, and the next converters that I will buy, interface that I will buy, will be RME, but that really comes down to like the choice of all the different versions and units and types that they have, combined with the rock solid stability of the drivers and the software. That's a winning combination to me right there. That's so much better. That's so much more important than all of the other stuff about, these minute differences in what is imparted onto the sound. Because anyway, that's my 2 cents on it. Where I feel like there's a lot more snake oil salesmanship happening is when you start to get into the really, really expensive stuff. I can't get with that. I feel like there's something disingenuous going on with this. But everybody's entitled to spend their money how they want. And the other thing about it is that when I say, the differences of these are meaningless, I'm just really talking about for myself. If you're a person that you feel like that converter is just speaking to you and it's bringing something to your music that is making it better and making you want to make music and making everything work for you, because the whole process of doing everything is so subjective and ambiguous and mysterious, really, like so far as where it all comes from and how we get motivated and what registers to like that sounds great. So hey, if whatever works, if it's working for you and you like it and you can afford it, I say go for it. But in general, the differences in the sound, it's very much also like the differences in the sound of the DAWs, because that's a hugely controversial topic too that I would also like to talk about because I have my own experiences with this. But it's kind of the same in the sense of like, yes, there are differences. The differences in the sound is so minuscule that all the other features are, to me, much more important. That I would really just focus on that. So that's my 2 cents on converters. Let me know what you guys think. I would love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, turn on the bell for notifications. All that helps the channel so much. I've got a new album out called Atlantic. I know what the name of it is. It's called Atlantic. And it's on all the streaming and cassettes on Bandcamp. And if you found this content useful, consider joining me over at my Patreon. Your support there is most appreciated and helps me to continue making this content, or just pick up Atlantic or any of the other music. All right, thanks for listening and see you next time.